friends, my name is Victoria and welcome back to another video. I just received the coveted 60 subscriber plaque in the mail, so today's a party. So yeah, hi, there's 60 of you now. That is so incredibly insignificant, but it's a little exciting for me because I've had this account for a while and it took a hot minute to get up there. So I figured in celebration of the 60 people here, maybe 40 non-robots on this channel, we should do something different, something I've never done. And what's something I've never done here, probably for good reason, is just speak a lot with no theme and no genre. I know it won't make for a great video, but there's been a lot of things I've been thinking that I haven't had a place to put, and I figure this is my channel and you subscribe to me. So you can watch it. It might be fun. I think it might be a little fun. So what I've done is compiled a list of about 60 things I've been thinking, kind of divided into different sections, and they all relate to like arts and entertainment because I know that's like the field of this channel. So it's like kind of relevant. It's a little fun, but it's very me, and this is I think we should just get into it. So the first section, the first 10 or so thoughts are about High School Musical, the musical, the series, because the 4th season just came out and I'm not even done with it yet, but I have so much to say, and I know I did a video on it a while ago, so I figured might as well add on with some of the things I've been thinking. The first thing I want to start by saying is that I'm really disappointed with the rollout of these episodes. If you keep up with the show, their past 3 seasons were all released with an episode a week. That's the way television needs to be. Any good show out right now, Succession, is doing things weekly because it generates hype. When you release things all at once, there's hype for a week or so and then it's gone. Despite the fact that you might hear me complain a bit throughout this section, I think High School Musical, the musical, the series is a very good show, and I think it deserves a better send-off for its last season. I will also say the minute I knew all the episodes were coming out at once, I knew that Zach and Vanessa weren't coming back to the show. I realized that's probably something that people knew, but if you wanted to build that excitement, like, oh, I wonder if they're coming in the last episode, it's gone. It's gone. And then on the topic of the original cast coming back, I want to say that that aspect of this season was not that intriguing to me at all because they only got the least employed people. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, but it's like Fork spotted in kitchen. Like, yeah, they're coming back to the show. They have nothing to do. Their livelihoods are based upon this iconic role. And that's not entirely their fault. I know this happens in a lot of different franchises. It's unfortunate for very talented people because I think a lot of this cast is extremely talented, but it's also like I'm not gonna be that surprised. A lot of them were in previous seasons anyways in little cameos, so I don't know. It wasn't a selling point for me, but it was nice to see them, I guess. Then going off of that, their reintroduction brought up a few new additions to the canon, you could say. So I want to talk about some of them and why they don't mean all that much to me. The first thing they said was like, oh, Troy and Gabrielle are in couples therapy. That was a throwaway joke. If your goal is like to be relatable to couples that are struggling, like you tried and you failed because you didn't even give them a story, you gave them one throwaway line, and that is not significant to me. One thing that is admittedly a much bigger deal is the confirmation that Ryan Evans is gay, and this should be very big to me. I have a whole video just about his character. He's always been my favorite in the franchise. I've always wholeheartedly believed he was gay, and this is good to hear, but it also was not that big of a shock because again, Kenny Ortega and Lucas Grabeel have confirmed it in interviews in the past, and again, this whole canon to me, it doesn't mean anything if you're not going to develop those stories. I recognize that like this show wasn't about them. They were like an aspect of the season and they're filming this movie, and like who's even to say the movie within the show is legitimate to the original franchise? I don't know. So like it is nice to see, it's good to get the homophobes away, but I can't say I was like struck by it because I already believed it and they didn't address it in the best way possible. He was dating like Scott from Pentatonics. Like I like Pentatonics, but is that what's gonna do it for me? I don't know. I'm complaining a bit, so I'll say nice things now. I wanna say the show is like very legitimately good, and watching this season confirmed that. I've known that for a while. 3rd season fell off a bit, but like it's always been thoroughly entertaining. But also like so much star power in this cast, like they're genuinely also talented. Obviously this like kind of gave rise to Olivia Rodrigo. Julia Lester was nominated for a Tony. The 2 I wrote down to talk about today that have stood out to me in this season so far are Joshua Bassett, because like, wow, he is so good. I know that like he's probably gonna go in the music direction, and I hope he does because he's a very good singer, but I also would be so devastated if he gave up acting because he's so good in this show. He's so funny, very authentic. I think he just seems like a good guy, and I think Olivia is so real for writing Sour because I'd be heartbroken too. And then Sophia Wiley is just so good. I've always loved her, but this season she's been so good. I really like her and Josh together. And then that brings me to my next point. This season has confirmed, strangely enough, that I'm a Rena shipper, because I might have mentioned it in the last video I made. That was like 2 years ago, so I don't know. But I used to be a very diehard Ricky and Nene stan, and then obviously Nene was gone, so I was like, is Ricky just gonna be devastated? I don't think he should ever find anyone because I think she was his soulmate. I like him and Gina together. I think Josh and Sophia's chemistry is off the charts. They are so, so good together. Their voices, Can I Have This Dance is in every Spotify playlist I have now because wow, they're just so good. And I'm so happy for them. And I'm not done with the season, but I think they're gonna be endgame. I don't know, don't quote me on that. I'm gonna use that point to transition to my next genre of thoughts because I wanna introduce an idea to you guys. I believe I have coined this term myself. I think I came up with this, but it doesn't really matter because I want to share it with everyone. I want this to be a thing. I wholeheartedly believe we are currently living in what I call a white man, light-skinned black woman renaissance. And am I a little biased? We don't need to talk about that. Guys, it's happening. The relationship of Ricky and Gina in High School Musical, the musical, the series, is one example of a long, long list, guys. I don't watch that Queen Charlotte Bridgerton show, but every interview I've seen of those two people, the chemistry is unbelievable. White man, light-skinned, black woman renaissance. It continues. Harry Styles is dating Taylor Russell right now. Guys, she's so gorgeous. He's so cool. Power couple. Guys, white man, light-skinned, black woman renaissance. After that, we have Tom and Zendaya, guys. Obviously, the #1 power couple for ages and ages and ages, and they're never gonna break up, and they're gonna get married, and they're soulmates. And then, last but not least, guys, my favorite movie of all time, Black Little Mermaid. It's not called Black Little Mermaid, it's called The Little Mermaid, the live action version with Halle Bailey. She's my favorite person. She's a literal princess, and her and whoever the hell plays Eric, because I forget his name right now, had so much chemistry. It made the movie. Guys, white man, light-skinned black woman renaissance. It's a real thing, and it's only gonna grow. If you're not a white man or a light-skinned black woman, how can you support the cause, rally in the streets, tell everyone you know? Guys, it's so serious, and I have nothing else to say other than it's so serious to me, and I am writing for this until I die. And again, not biased. Don't look for a picture of my boyfriend. Switching topics pretty much entirely, I now want to talk about Greta Van Fleet because you might have some questions if you know me. I'm obviously the biggest Greta Van Fleet fan, or I like to believe that I am. We're going to talk about some things that might call that into question, but they just released their newest album, Starcatcher, and I'm sure you're curious if I liked it. I did like it after I listened to it 5 times. Starcatcher is not a bad album by any means. I recognize that now. The issue, unfortunately, is just that it does not compare to The Battle at Garden's Gate even a little bit, and normally that's not a big deal. I'm all for artist growth. I'm all for different sounds. The issue is that The Battle at Garden's Gate just happened to be very genuinely the best album that has ever been made in the world. I will say this until I'm dead. It's the best music that has ever graced my ears, and when you release something that perfect, to follow it up is just about impossible. I think a good example of this maybe, they're hard to compare, but like Declan McKenna is my favorite singer of all time probably. And his first album, What Do You Think About the Car, is still one of my all-time favorites. I think it's some of the best music ever made ever. His second album, Zeros, was a very different sound from that album, not that similar. And yet I still love it because it's good in its own right. Not even necessarily better, like I don't even know if you could compare them, but I know that it's a beautiful sound, and this is a beautiful sound, and it's Declan growing as an artist, and it's okay for them to coexist. The Battle at Garden's Gate did not give me that sort of comparison. Like I couldn't be like, oh, this sounds nothing like it, but I still, like, I don't, it just like, don't let me speak. Don't let me speak anymore. But I think it's a good album. I want to get the CD. I enjoy it. It's just hard when their previous work just happened to be very genuinely like the pinnacle of music for me. That's not their fault. I also want to talk about their concert because if you're like familiar with the LA area, that might be another lingering question on your mind. A couple days ago, they had a show at the Forum in Los Angeles, which is one of my favorite venues. I should have been there. Why wasn't I there? a few things. Initially, I wasn't gonna go because my mom said I was going to too many concerts, which not entirely true, but I can see where maybe she got that from. Also because honestly, I just kind of want to save money. I didn't really want to pay for a ticket because the Forum is a little bit pricey. So I was like, okay, it's fine if I don't go, it's okay. Then like 2 days before the show, I got a press invite to go for free. I don't know if I've said it on this channel, but I have an entertainment journalism job, and sometimes things like that come up, and that would have been very awesome. So why didn't I take that? Well, because my schedule this week has been so terrifyingly cramped, I had no time to write the review that would have been due the very next morning. And that's just how things go. It makes me feel sad. I was very sad declining the offer. I felt like a bad fan. I had to be reassured that I am a good fan. But it's okay. I love Greta Van Fleet, and I'm so certain I'm gonna see them at least 11 times in my lifetime. So guys, it's fine. I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's fine. Switching topics to another concert I went to recently. Guys, the Eras Tour. I was at the Eras Tour night 2 because my friend is the best friend I've ever had in the world. I might have mentioned it in another video, but like I wasn't sure if I would get to go, and then I got to go because she's awesome and I was there and it was awesome. Taylor Swift is my favorite person on the planet. The show was so good, I have so much to say, but I wrote down some of the highlights specifically. I will start by saying, guys, Tolerate It and All Too Well, the 10-minute version. Hearing that live was so crazy because I've been crying to those for who knows how long. So that was cathartic, is that the word? It was really good. I also want to talk about Miss Americana and the Heartbreak Prince because that's one of my favorite songs. It's my favorite song on Lover. It's kind of significant to me just in terms of like when it came into my life. And hearing it live was so awesome. My friend compared it to when Harry Styles started one of his shows with Golden, and I thought that was such a good comparison because those were just both such big moments for me, like songs I absolutely adore, and like having them like entering with that is just really awesome, so I love. And I'm gonna let this bring me to our final genre of discussion, staying on the topic of like live shows but not a concert. I want to talk about a comedy show I went to yesterday and then the existential crisis that kind of came with it because I have a habit of freaking out when I'm like very emotionally affected by something. So let's talk about that. So last night I went to an improv show with my boyfriend and our friends, and it was like so cool, so funny, so good. And I've been to a lot of these just because I live in LA and I'm a big comedy fan, but this one was very different because it was my first time at the Upright Citizens Brigade, which is like kind of a big deal if you're into comedy at all. Basically this little theater in LA, there's also a New York location, has given birth to some of the most famous alumni on the planet. Amy Poehler, Donald Glover, Zach Woods, Ed Helms, Ellie Kemper, like basically anyone I have ever admired as a comedian, but also as just an artist in general, probably was giving performances in their early days at some point there, and so being there was like, ah. So the show was like so good. The group was Baby Wants Candy, and it was like a musical improv show, meaning like they get a title and then they just do a musical, which is so awesome. A standout for me was Ross Bryant because I've seen some of his other improv stuff before. He's also like in the line for the Jurassic ride at Universal Studios, but that doesn't really matter. The point is like he was phenomenal and it was so cool to see him. So the show was really great, but that means that what came with that was like my post-show panic, which basically happens anytime I'm like very moved by a production. Essentially, anytime I really enjoy a performance, I think, gee, I kind of miss performing, and then I have to ask myself this kind of significant question, which is, am I only pursuing entertainment journalism because I think I'm going to fail in an actual industry job, and I just kind of want to take what I can get as close to the actual work I want to be doing as possible? Is it because I don't think I would fit in well within that realm and I don't have that much faith in my performing abilities, but I am very confident in my writing abilities, and so I just kind of take what I can get if it means that I will be comfortable and like mostly happy, as opposed to like putting in effort to get to where I think I could be completely happy. And that probably is not true, but I will ask it anyway. And then that whole thing kind of poses another question, which is like, could I even make it as a woman in comedy with the added layer of like being a woman of color? Have I noticed that white men my age can make jokes that I've been making similarly for years and like getting a different level of recognition for it? Is there a type of delivery that will only ever really sell if you are a man. Is that true? Who's to say if that's true? But like, is that true? Maybe. Is my existing comedic value, you know, albeit minimal, but like what is there? Is that just based upon being laughed at and not laughed with? Have I ever really been funny when I've been trying to be? When people laugh at me, is it because I'm doing something on my own accord, or is it just because that's the way I was born? But again, like not who knows. The takeaway is not so much that I entered that stage of panic, but that I watched something so good that it moved me to that position. I had similar things when I watched Les Mis at the Pantages the other day. Anytime I see like a very good show, that's kind of the headspace I enter, and I think that's important. I think we need to be watching things that make us ask questions. I think that live performances more often than not are the things that really do it for me. Just like any good art, I think art is good. And I think that maybe you need to watch a musical improv show if you don't do enough like questioning of your life. Do I think the people I went to the show with had that same self-panic? Like, no. But I do think they had a good time. I think we should be watching things that are a good time. I think we should be watching people be creative and using their minds, and I like really want to shut up. So that's the end of my list. 60 thoughts with Victoria. If you watched this, thank you. If you didn't, makes no difference to me. I think I really just needed to like talk for a minute, so that was really fun. But yeah, this was cool. If you have thoughts, you should tell me. Write all 60 of the thoughts you just had right now. Your last 60 thoughts, put them in the comments, I swear to God, and I will read all of them. Happy 60 subscribers to me, and happy however many subscribers you have to you also. I used to be good at outros, and now I think it's because I don't script my videos anymore. The point is, the video is done, and therefore you are done watching it. I had a lot of fun. I really appreciate you guys. You can like and comment if you want. I will make a video soon, probably. I'll be seeing you. Bye! Necessary, but I don't think I should be the one doing that shit. Oop.